Okay. So I'd just like to begin by thanking the organising committee for having such a great conference and having me here. My name is Rosemary Waite and I'm one of the dairy residents at the University of Melbourne. We're embedded in practice in various dairy areas throughout Victoria, and my practice is in Tasmania. So I'm here today to talk about the working natural service sire behaviour and using some different monitoring techniques. So here we go. This is Australia, and I just thought I'd start with a bit of context. We've got 1.66 million cows, or dairy cows, in Australia, and if you're not aware, that's Tasmania down the bottom, and we've got 9% of the national herd. So my practice is on the far northwest corner of that, and it's quite green, and we grow lots of grass, and it's quite fun. So, dairy natural service size, why should we care? I think there's a lot of perception about a lot of use of AI or artificial insemination in dairy herds, but in our particular area and other places we do find that they're used. It's hard to get specific information on the use of dairy natural service size, but we do have in Australia the Australian Dairy Herd Improvement Report, and they, on those reports, animals that are submitted to those programs for herd improvement reasons, their parentage is noted, and from the report from 2016, 32% of those animals that are Holstein or Jersey were noted as being naturally bred. So whilst it's not a global and true statement of all natural service, it is an indication that it is used. We also know that management of natural service sires can affect their performance. So a recent study from Andrew Hancock down in southwest Victoria found with pre and post mating bull breeding soundness exams that 25% of bulls became lame over the course of the joining period. If management can affect their performance, then it would be really good to know what aspects of management do affect them and affect them poorly, and how we might be able to mitigate the risk of poor performance. So we know that, well, in Australia we have a governing body, Dairy Australia, that have recommendations for the use of natural service size that they give out to farmers. Rest and rotation are recommended to prevent lameness, but we don't know what the best recommendation would be, and also what the differences might be between a bull that is at rest, hanging around in a paddock eating grass with other bulls, versus a bull that is at work, which is a bull in a paddock with females mounting and serving. So we wanted to investigate that question. So in order to do that, we constructed a prospective observational study. We recruited a 1,000 cow commercial dairy farm close to the town of Smithton, and we used some triaxial accelerometer collars, and we've got a bull up there with one on. So there's a housing unit on the top with a solar panel, there's an SD card, a GPS and a triaxial accelerometer in the top there, and a weight underneath to keep it sitting on the top. We observed these 10 bulls over a 14-day joining period and painted them up so we could see them in the paddock. And we observed these bulls for 4 behaviours: grazing, resting, ruminating and walking. And we used a tablet-based device to record these behaviours against universal time. So the tablet device is just sitting on the top of the truck there, and that's me watching the sunset and the bulls, which is quite lovely. We use these universal time stamps to train learning algorithms and apply that retrospectively to the data set, which meant that we could observe these behaviours over the full time period. So this is the F score of our behaviours. Grazing and walking came quite high, 0.86 and 0.91. But ruminating and resting with less reliability at 0.19 and 0.38. And here's our results. Excuse me. So we've got here our bulls. You will notice, you might think that I can't count, but in fact there is not 10 there. We had some issues with Gleaning data from the collars afterwards, and that we believe is mostly due to damage from fighting and whatnot that bulls do, and that's again why that data is a bit patchy. But from the colours on the side there, we've got resting in a red colour, ruminating in green, walking in blue and grazing in purple, and this just gives a basic idea of the days along the bottom and the hours spent along of the activity on the side. So just a general view of what bulls are doing and the fluctuation over time. But again, we wanted to see what the difference was between working and resting. So we've noted which days the bulls were in the paddock with the females and which days they weren't. And this is the results. So we've got resting, ruminating, walking and grazing down the bottom, an hour spent per day up the side, and rest in the redder colour and work in the bluey aqua colour. The only differences that we have statistically in behaviour here is for ruminating. So more ruminating was done for resting animals than for working animals, which makes sense. You know, you would expect animals to be ruminating more and walking more and whatnot when they're in with the girls. However, I'll just draw you back to the F score for that one, which was far less reliable. And then we also looked at, we had a GPS unit in the system as well, and we looked at distance travelled. So this is, again, apologies for there's not 10 there, but we had some destruction. And this is the distance travelled over time. Distance, so the kilometres on the side for each of the individual bulls, and then time along the bottom in days. So just to bring that into some averages, here we have the bulls along the bottom and the distance travelled. The distance travelled varies quite significantly, with some bulls not going very far, and the maximum amount we had was 26 kilometres in a day, which is quite significant, and some bulls not going very far at all. Again, we wanted to see the difference between work and rest. So this is each of the bulls and the differences they had between work and rest. So again, distance in kilometres along the side, and activity, rest and work along the bottom, and then each of the individual bulls. There's not statistically significant differences between those for any of the bulls, except for number 8, where we have more distance travelled for work. And overall, if I amass all that data into work and rest for all bulls, again, no statistical significance in the difference, but there is some there. So to sum up, I suppose this is quite a small study, and we had problems getting the collars to work properly, with bulls being rough, but I think there's some differences there that need to be investigated further, and to know more about how far they go and what they get up to, we can manage them better. This is a lovely picture of Smithton, great part of the world. And a few people to thank: University of Melbourne, Dairy Australia, Smithton Veterinary Service, my supervisors Craig Dwyer, David Beggs, Peter Mansell and Michael Pyman, the owners of the bulls, Mark Stevenson, James Hills from TIA, Daniel Smith and Norma Bishop. And with that, thank you very much.